Oh, what is the upskis, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the GXHockeyCast. We are on episode 62 of my little hockey show where I go through the news and the whatnots of the NHL, kind of focusing on the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Calgary Flames because they're my favorite teams, but I could talk about any of the NHL hockey teams. So let's get into all of the news this week. We have a really sad thing to talk about this week. So Rodion Amirov has passed away at 21 years old. He was diagnosed with a brain tumor a couple of years ago. He's a Toronto Maple Leafs prospect, first-round pick, and he's passed away. And, absolutely blindsided with this one. Like, it's so immensely sad that someone... he's just been robbed, honestly. We've been robbed. Everyone's been robbed. An incredibly sad situation. A young man that's given his life to hockey, and he made it to the top. He got drafted, and before he even got a chance to live out his dream, he's passed away. So incredibly sad news to hear something like that. I mean, 21 years old, insanely too early. Someone that, though we didn't get to see a lot of this player, obviously we didn't get to see him on the ice, from interviews, and even after the diagnosis, he seemed like such a bright person, so optimistic and looking forward to the future and not letting anything bring him down, and that was very respectable. And man, I was rooting for this young man ever since I heard that diagnosis. I was just devastated to hear that. I was rooting for him. I imagine a lot of us were rooting for this player to get to make it out on the other side. Sadly, that is not the case, and it's incredibly sad. I mean, it's something that we can reflect on. I mean, it really hit me because, like, I'm only 30, and there's still so much more I want to do and haven't done and experienced, and like I'm not a professional hockey player or anything, so just I can't. I feel so horrible for the situation, their family, and everyone like that. I hope everyone's doing all right. But yeah, man, life is tough, and things like this happen on a regular basis. But goodness gracious, incredibly sad news. I was absolutely just blindsided with that. So yeah, best wishes to him, and geez, let's just. That's not great, and it's not only him that's passed away this week. We have more really sad news. Legendary Toronto Maple Leaf Bobby Baun has also passed away at 86. I mean, it's never good talking about people passing away, but 86, at least he had a nice full life. So there's that. But legendary Toronto Maple Leafs, I believe he scored an OT winning goal that brought home a Stanley Cup to the Toronto Maple Leafs. Legendary player. I'm not going to sit here and try and pretend that I knew who he was because way before my time, but I did my due diligence and read some articles about him, and sounds like an absolute character. And again, incredibly sad to lose people like this. So let's try our best here to move on, power through, and we will move on with the rest of the NHL news. But incredibly sad week in the NHL space. I'm hurting from that one. That was not very good to hear. So let's go off to some other news. We have news out of the Boston Bruins. David Krejci has announced his retirement officially. Not necessarily a surprise. Kind of seemed like that was in the cards after their playoff run ended this season. Bergeron going down, and now Krejci. So Bruins fans are probably like, oh boy, this is going to be probably a pretty rough season. And I mean, it's not making things better that they had such a rough playoff run going down the way that they did against the Florida Panthers. And now, I mean, not a whole lot of optimism going into the next season. You're down Bergeron, you're down David Krejci, you're down Taylor Hall. At least you still have Swayman and Allmark and a pretty damn great defensive core, but no centers. And that's a big issue. So that'll be something we'll be talking about today. We're going to start diving into the previews and predictions for each of the divisions. I don't know. We'll talk about it once we get there. But yeah, David Krejci, I mean, a very consistently solid player. lots of 70-point kind of guy. I mean, he wasn't the superstar in Boston, but he is going to go down as a legendary Bruin. Was very prominent during their Stanley Cup runs. He was there when they won the Stanley Cup in 2011, and he was prominent during their other runs where they lost in the finals. But David Krejci, I mean, personally, I was very surprised that when he left for Europe, he played a year in Europe, and then he came back, and he was just fantastic. He was just dandy, didn't really miss a step, fit right in. He's been the perfect second-line center for the Bruins forever, it seems like. I feel like he's been there for as long as I've been watching hockey. It feels like it's just been him and Bergeron, and it's definitely going to be a while, I feel like, until that void is filled in Boston. I don't know what center they have in their organization right now that could fill a void such as Bergeron and David Krejci. I mean, they have Zacha and they have some other guys there, but yeah, it's definitely going to be a very interesting season. But I can't help but have horrifying flashbacks of my predictions of the Bruins season last year, saying they're going to miss the playoffs because of all these injuries. But this time they don't have that benefit of Bergeron actually coming back. He's not coming back this time, so that's different. That's the first time that's happened in the Bruins organization in a very, very long time. So it's going to be really weird, very, very interesting indeed to see what's going to go down with the Bruins this season. We'll talk about how I feel their season is going to go down. I don't know if we're going to do it this episode. I haven't decided which division I'm going to talk about just yet. And now we have some news for the NHL video game, which if you want to go back and listen to my GXHockeyCast, the last episode, I talked about NHL video games, where I just talked about my history with the NHL video games all the way back to the early 2000s till current date pretty much. So Cale Makar is going to be the cover athlete for the next NHL video game. Pretty cool. I mean, I like that. It's it really hasn't been that big of a deal, the cover athlete for me personally, for a very long time. Austin Matthews has been on it, so I'm a happy boy. He's been on it multiple times now, but Cale Makar, hell yeah, that is sweet for him. Can't say I've actually looked at any of the gameplay or trailers for the NHL games. I just don't really, I'm not hyped up for the games anymore. They just do not interest me. They come out every single year with minor upgrades and tweaks and shit like that. I just feel like they need to change the formula, but why change the formula when it's just like the most easy money that they can make? So, oh well, at least that's cool. Cale Makar, defenseman on the cover. I feel like the last time we saw a defenseman maybe was PK Subban. Correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe was Roman Josi on a cover, maybe? I don't know. I definitely remember PK Subban. I think he was on NHL 18, maybe? I don't know. That was a pretty solid NHL video game. Hopefully the NHL video games start to ramp up and get better. They've just been they've been serviceable for a very long time, but, I grew up on the PS2 era, which arguably is the golden era of sports video games, is on that PS2 era. All those games are so friggin' good. And, I just feel like since the PS4 era, it's just been not very good. But, let me know what you think of the upcoming NHL video game. Are you excited? Do you like Cale Makar being on the cover? Or did you want Austin Matthews to be on there for like the third or fourth time already? Which, I don't really give a shit. All right, so let's move on. We'll talk about some of the signings and all that great stuff that has gone down in the NHL since last week. And honestly, there hasn't been very many. I think 3 total here. We got Cowan from the Toronto Maple Leafs. That is their first-round pick that a lot of people are rather upset about. But congratulations to him signing his entry-level contract with the Toronto Maple Leafs. I'm guessing this is Caleb Jones, signs a league minimum contract with the Carolina Hurricanes. And then with Vancouver, they signed P.S. Suter, 2 years. If I could just get the total money, I think it's like 1.6 or something like that. Not a bad deal. I mean, it's a good depth signing, I guess, for the Vancouver Canucks. More than likely going to be slotting in to their bottom 6, which is, Vancouver needs a lot of help with depth scoring and just a lot of help in general. But we'll see how it goes with them this season. We'll talk about them at some point. We have a minor trade that went down in the NHL this week. Jeff Petrie, I was so excited for him to go back to Montreal. I'm like, it worked out so well for him there. And now they've shipped him off to Detroit. So he's off to Detroit. He is now a member of the Red Wings, Jeff Petrie. So added veteran defenseman onto that blue line for Detroit. They could definitely use some more depth on that blue line. They struggled last year. Moritz Seider can't fucking do everything by himself. That, what's that dude's name? I don't know, they have a defense, Sherratt maybe? Sherratt. He's kind of been a little bit of a disaster. Hopefully Petrie can work out better. Kind of a fan of Petrie. Definitely mostly through fantasy hockey. I've been picking him up for years and years now, and he's been very, very solid for me, except for last season. Anyway, nice to see Jeff Petrie. I mean, he's probably going to be playing. I don't know how big of a role he'll have with Detroit. Maybe he'll bounce back from the season that he had last year with the Pens. I think that's where he was. He didn't have a very good year last year. Hopefully, he can bounce back. And Montreal acquires Gustav Lindstrom, conditional 4th-round pick in the 2025 NHL draft. Can't say I know much about this Gustav Lindstrom feller. Let's just take a little bit of a look here. 24-year-old defenseman, so yeah, probably not too much more you're going to get out of this player. Looks like Montreal's grabbing a younger defenseman, freeing up some cap space. And, Montreal's not really in a position to go off into a playoff run or anything like that this year. Probably not even going to be sniffing around being in a playoff spot this year. But Detroit, they'll take on Jeff Petrie. He may help them get into a playoff spot this season. They'll definitely be battling for a playoff spot this season. So that's all that's been going on in the NHL over the last week or so. A very sad week, like I said. So let's try and brighten things up with some predictions and probably some really bad predictions because, that's just generally how that stuff goes down. So I think we're just going to start with the one that everybody wants. Let's just start with the Atlantic Division. We're going to go through the 8 teams in the Atlantic. We'll go over what they've done in the offseason, and we'll see what they look like going into this season, though there is still quite a bit of time before the preseason begins and even the regular season. There's still free agents out there that could be signed. There's still trades that can be made. So I'm recording this in the middle of August, so if things change, things change. But I'll probably just if like a major trade goes down, let's just say, for example, Toronto Maple Leafs trade away William Nylander and bring in a defenseman. And I say that whatever my predictions were, I will adjust that in the coming weeks. If something major like that happens, I can shift it. It'll be okay. I'm going to save my predictions this time around so that I can come back to them a year from now and we can make fun of them. That'll be a fun little tradition we'll do here on the show. So that'll be a lot of fun. So let's get into this shit. Let's start off with the Toronto Maple Leafs. Admittedly, a pretty interesting offseason, obviously. Kyle Dubas is out. Brad Treliving is in. The coach, Sheldon Keefe, he's still here. We'll see about that. I like Sheldon Keefe, so I'm fine with him here. But if I feel like the second there's a bigger name out there, they're probably going to go for him. But Toronto Maple Leafs exiting the team this offseason, we lost Noel Acciari, Michael Bunting, Eric Gustafson, Justin Hall, Mac Hollowell, Eric Shalgren, Alexander Kerfoot, Victor Mete, Ryan O'Reilly, Luke Shen, and Radim Zahorna. So obviously a lot of exits going out from the Toronto Maple Leafs organization. Noel Acciari being probably the major one off of this list that I wanted to keep the most. Luke Shen, a close second, but he just made way too much money out of Nashville. Good for him. And Michael Bunting, it was kind of written in the stone that he was pretty much gone already. The beginning of last season, we all kind of knew. It's like, all right, this guy was a diamond in the dirt that they found, and they shined him up real nice. Now he's making a lot of money in Edmonton. So, good for him. Glad that he got his money, but there was just no way that the Leafs were going to be able to keep him. But bringing in a handful of new players, we got Ryan Reeves coming in, John Klingberg. I don't know what the hell those names are. I'm going to skip all those names. Those are Lajoie, I know that name. Bertuzzi and Max Domi, I would say both of those kind of surprise signings. Domi less so, Bertuzzi, a major surprise signing. Gambrell, Ilya Samsonov gets the 1-year extension, and Martin Jones coming in as a goaltending option for the Toronto Maple Leafs, whether you like it or not. So looking at cap friendly here, I mean, the Toronto Maple Leafs are still top heavy on the offense. Forward-wise anyway. Got Austin Matthews, John Tavares, Mitch Marner. Nylander still here. I mean, we'll see how that one goes. He's still dealing with the contract. We still don't have a contract extension for Austin Matthews yet, which is a little bit surprising personally. So in that top 6, you're going to have Austin, Tavares, Marner, Nylander, probably going to be sliding in Bertuzzi, and who knows where Max Domi is going to slide in. Is he going to be a good third-line option? And of course, the big question mark around the Leafs this season, I imagine, is going to be, what is Matthew Knies going to bring to this team this season? In a full year, last year, we got a nice little preview. He looked really, really, really impressive in the playoffs last year. Then he got hurt, and then the whole team seemed to fall apart without Matthew Knies in the lineup. He just seemed to bring a really nice special ingredient to the team, a little bit of a mystery, because he's so fresh and new and stuff like that. We don't really know what we have here yet, but so far, so good. So is Matthew Knies going to break into that top 6, or is he just going to dominate in the bottom 6? I'm hoping for either of those would be great. I would imagine Bertuzzi is going to get into that top 6, and if he can do what he did with the Bruins when he showed up there last season, oh my goodness, we could be in for an increase in offense here in Toronto. It's always been really good, though the last couple of seasons it has taken a little bit of a dip, not like it's a major problem or anything, but the problem is the depth scoring with the Toronto Maple Leafs. If Austin Matthews, Marner, and those guys get shut down, it's generally been like not a lot going on in that bottom 6. I mean, Kerfoot's been a consistent disappointment. At times he would show things. Pierre Engvall, the same kind of deal. So now you're going to have different guys down there. We're going to have a bigger role for Sam Lafferty. Calle Jarnkrok, I mean, he's probably going to be the rover this season, maybe kind of like how Kerfoot was. If someone big goes down in the top 6, Jarnkrok's probably going to get the call up to the top 6, and he's going to be roaming around, I would imagine, in that middle 6 area for the Leafs. He looked good in moments in that top 6, but is Calle Jarnkrok really the guy that you brought in to be in the top 6? I doubt it, but he's definitely a good option to have there in that middle 6. If someone goes down, I don't feel very bad if Calle Jarnkrok is going up to play with Matthews. I'm like, all right, that's a fine Band-Aid. And then Ryan Reeves, what's he bringing to the table this season? Is he going to be getting into all 82 games this year? I doubt it. He is now above 35 years old. I feel like we're definitely going to be seeing him in situational moments. We got a big game coming up that's going to have a bit of hitters, maybe coming up against the Bruins or something. They're probably going to throw Revo into the lineup, I would imagine. But to have Revo in the lineup every single game, I don't think that's what they're bringing him in there for. You know, you're going to have him in there in the locker room. He's going to be chatting with the boys, having fun on the road and all that stuff. They didn't bring in Ryan Reeves just to play hockey. There's a lot more to the table that Ryan Reeves is bringing off of the ice that they brought him in for. So, I mean, he's here for 3 years, so we'll see how that one goes. Sam Lafferty probably going to have a bigger role on this team this year. I'm fairly excited to see what he can do. He's listed as a center, right, left wing, so he looks like another rover type. I don't think you would really want him in that top 6, but he could probably fill in some gaps. Will he be playing center? He can play center, but I don't know. And then you got David Kampf. Is he going to be the 4th-line center? I mean, in a perfect world, yes, but $2.4 million for a 4th-line center, not ideal, but he is an incredible shutdown defensive forward. He's great on the penalty kill, and he's very reliable defensively. And then you have kind of some of the extras. You got Dylan Gambrell, Pontus Holmberg. Are these guys going to crack onto the lineup in a bigger way this season? We'll have to wait and see. And then, of course, you have guys like Robertson. Is he finally going to break through? Is he finally going to remain healthy this season and finally show us that he is an NHL-ready player? We've all been waiting for him for a while. It's just been injury after injury and setback after setback, and I'm hoping that this year will be the big one for him. He's still listed on injured reserve as of right now, but I think he's going to get into the lineup. In terms of long-term injuries reserve, we have Jake Muzzin and Matt Murray, both on there. Doubtful that we're going to see either of those players on the ice this season unless something absolutely magical happens, possibly. I don't know. I'm not really going to try and think about that. So, forward-wise, I'm quite satisfied. I mean, especially adding in Bertuzzi, that really makes me quite happy. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 guys here. So, that, I mean, if this is the lineup, I mean, yes, you're going to want to add maybe a depth guy or two. There's probably someone in the AHL that's not listed here on Cap Friendly that they can have as a depth forward if something goes wrong. But up front, man, like, I'm quite satisfied. Austin Matthews, if he's healthy this year, I feel like he's going to bounce back. Should hit 50 this season. I mean, he hit 40, and that's a down year in Austin Matthews' world. So I imagine shooting for 50 this year is in the books. I would love to see him crack 100 points. Same with Marner. I would love that. John Tavares, we could see a fallback in production this year. I personally don't think it's going to happen. I think he's going to be just fine. He's already been working very heavily into preventing this fall. You know, he knows that he's getting older. He's already not the fastest, so he's been working on things to make sure that his fall from high elite player isn't going to be all that bad. So I don't think we're going to see that big of a drop off from John Tavares. He's the captain. He's the leader. He's my boy. I respect and love John Tavares. Marner, hoping that he will, keep his focus, keep his cool. I know he's going to say, the people's comments, they don't get to me. We all know that it does, but just try and keep it cool, keep it calm, and have a good fucking season this year, Marner. Same goes with you, Willie. Willie, I know you want your money, buddy, and you're probably going to get it. I just don't know where you're going to end up. Are you going to be a Leaf this whole entire year? We're just going to have to wait and see. Bertuzzi, hoping for 60, 65 points out of him. That would be amazing. Bring the grit, bring the aggressiveness. That would be awesome. Max Domi, goddamn. So excited for this guy. I hope he can find a home here in Toronto. That would make me really happy. All right, let's take a look at the defense. So we got Morgan Riley now beginning his $7.5 million extension. That might have actually kicked in last season, but regardless, looked like an absolute friggin' warrior coming out of the playoffs last year. Hopefully he can keep that up. Looking for a bounce back out of Morgan. He didn't have the greatest year last year, but obviously was not playing to his... He wasn't playing fully healthy, so clearly that was an issue for him last year. Hopefully he's back fully, Morgan Riley, this year. It's going to be interesting to see how the power play is going to go down with John Klingberg coming in here. Is he number one option, or is Morgan Riley still number one? Still got TJ Brody here, whether fans like it or not. I'm totally fine with having TJ Brody here. I really like that player. Jake McCabe, he's here now for a full season, so... if I'm looking at the names right here, I think Jake McCabe might be primed to be the new whipping boy in Toronto. I don't like saying that. I don't like having a whipping boy in Toronto, but I feel like if someone's going to take it, it's probably going to be Jake McCabe, because he's already kind of shown flashes of just kind of making silly mistakes last year, but hopefully he can clean that up, and it's only a $2 million cap hit for this year and next, so I'm pretty happy with that. Liljegren, I mean, we gotta get this guy. Come on, baby. You gotta get in there and be consistent. He looked like he had it last year, and then just fucking late in the season fell apart, and he blew it, and he just, he didn't get into the playoffs, and that really, really is unfortunate, because he was actually one of the better defensemen, I feel like, last year. Connor Timmins and Mark Giordano rounding it out there. I feel like they're going to be sharing time. I can't see 39-year-old Mark Giordano playing all 82 this year. He could, but I hope he doesn't. I would like to see Connor Timmins in there. I know people don't like him that much, that he's not that good, but I mean, he put up a bunch of points, so I think, you could do worse having a Connor Timmins back there. Defense, I mean, the top four is pretty good, man. Morgan Riley, TJ Brody, John Klingberg, Jake McCabe. I mean, not bad at all. I would really like to have in there a bona fide, defensive defenseman. Is any of these guys necessarily a defensive defenseman? I don't know. I feel like they're all kind of two ways. John Klingberg more offensive, Morgan Riley a little bit more to the offensive side. Brody, yeah, he's a little bit more defensive, but he doesn't hit. He's not a big physical defenseman. So that's what I really would have loved to have Luke Shen remain, because he would have been able to fill that slot. So if there's something out there that the Leafs could still do, they're cap strapped to shit right now. They're super over. But if they could find a defensive defenseman, someone that can bang bodies back there, be big in front of the net, that would make me feel a little bit better about this defensive core. Otherwise, it looks like a solid regular season defensive core. In terms of playoffs, it could definitely use some size and grit. That's what I would say about that. Goaltenders, you got Ilya Samsonov, Joseph Woll, and Martin Jones. So the big question mark is going to be Martin Jones or Joseph Woll. I think they're going to have to battle it out and see who comes out with it. It's probably going to be Martin Jones. He's the more veteran goaltender. I feel like he's probably going to end up winning it out. Joseph Woll has another year still basically league minimums. So I imagine the Leafs organization is going to want Martin Jones, but to have Joseph Woll back there, that's pretty good. He showed to be what looks like a good goaltender in the making. He looks very calm and collective, and I like that about him quite a bit. And then Samsonov, that's going to be a big question mark. Is he going to be able to repeat what he did last year? Was that a flash in the pan? Is he going to fall off a cliff? Or is he going to be a fucking Vezina candidate this year? Goaltenders are so hit and miss. They're so hard to predict what they're going to do. But hopefully it's good. I imagine he's going to be at minimum solid, so that's what we're hoping for here. In terms of where I think the Toronto Maple Leafs are going to finish this year, I feel like it's kind of a big shifting year for the division. Tampa Bay is getting older and more tired, and they're losing more and more players. Boston's losing players. So I have the Leafs as of right now. They are listed to finish in the Atlantic first. I have them finishing first. I don't really want them to finish first because I think it's kind of a bad voodoo. I don't like, but if they finish first this year, I feel like they have the best chance to do it this year, unless a team, one of the Buffaloes, Ottawas, or one of them has like a New Jersey level 40 to 50 point increase and just blows by the Leafs. But as of right now, I have the Leafs in first place coming out of that division. All right, up next, we got the Boston Bruins, who I was very mean to last season. Felt like I still feel justified. I feel like my points were made. They had a lot of major injuries coming into last season, and we all know that the beginning of the NHL season is extremely important. You want to get off to a good start. If you start out like 1-6, and then you're climbing out of a hole the whole entire season. It takes a very, very long time to climb out of a really bad start in the NHL. So I thought the Bruins were going to start out shitty. They started out unbelievable, and then they just never turned the fucking gas off, and they made me look like an absolute freaking moron. But that's the Bruins for you, man. That's what they do. They make us Toronto Maple Leafs fans look very silly on a regular basis. So Bruins had a big ol' offseason. Obviously, they had not the funnest playoff storyline go down, though it was quite fun for me to see that go down. So exiting out of the Boston Bruins organization, you got Michael DiPietro. Trent Frederick was re-signed, so he's good. I'm trying to find some names that actually are gone. Well, we know that Patrice Bergeron is gone. Tyler Bertuzzi is gone. Connor Carrick, Connor Clifton, Garnet Hathaway, Jonah Cope, good for him. What a name. David Krejci has retired. Vinny Laterra, Thomas Nosek, Dmitry Orlov, and Chris Wagner all exiting over this offseason. But coming in, they bring in JVR. Milan Lucic comes back to the Bruins. Kevin Shattenkirk, Morgan Geekie, Witherspoon, Magna, Richard, Logan Brown, Lauko, Mitchell, McLaughlin, Bobquist, DiPietro, Ragula, Walsh. They brought in a lot. They re-signed Swayman, so they're doing a lot, man. They're trying their best to fill in that gap. That is Patrice Bergeron. Good luck with that. That's going to be a void that the Bruins are going to be feeling for a handful of years, man. It's going to be a while before rather they draft a center and produce a center that comes in and can fill in that void, or they're going to have to make a trade and find someone to come in and fill in that hole. But as of right now, they haven't filled in that hole, and they're coming in. Forward-wise, we're starting off. We got David Pastrnak, Brad Marchand, Charlie Coyle, Pavel Zacha, Jake DeBrusk, Trent Frederick, Morgan Geekie, Milan Lucic, JVR, Patrick Brown, sorry, I called him Logan, Patrick Brown, Jesper Boqvist, and AJ Greer. On their I don't see anybody on their long-term injury reserve, so let's try and break down this top six. So you're looking at Charlie Coyle and probably Pavel Zacha as your 1-2 center. I have no idea which one's going to be the first or second. I would maybe Zacha first line, 26. Maybe if he gets the opportunity to be a top-line center, I'm not thinking that Pavel Zacha is going to emerge and become a point-a-game plus, but I think he's going to at least be a serviceable center for the Bruins. Definitely not ideal, but they seemed to really like him last year, though I didn't see anything that was overly flashy and amazing about Pavel Zacha's game. But it looks like he definitely found more to his game with the Bruins than he did with the New Jersey Devils. So there's that. Charlie Coyle, he's 31. he's a solid player. It's hard to talk about him as like the top line center for the Boston Bruins. But if he's going to have a guy like Brad Marchand and or David Pastrnak on his wing, it's going to bump him up. But is it going to bring down David Pastrnak and or Brad Marchand? That's going to be the question. We're just going to have to wait until they get on the ice and we'll see. Because what the Bruins did last year with all the injuries, I mean, they could do anything at this point. I mean, David Pastrnak now, he's 27. He's making big boy money now, and it's essentially his team. I mean, he's the big guy on the team. He's going to be looking to score 50 again. Maybe he gets the rocket. He's unbelievable. He's an unbelievable player, but without that center, is he going to be able to run a line the way that they used to run a line? I don't know. Is David Pastrnak the guy? We're definitely going to get an answer to that question this season. And then the Brad Marchand situation. He's 35 years old now. He's still good. That contract just it makes so upsetting. What an amazing contract. $6.125 million throughout his tenure here with the Bruins. I mean, fantastic. Are we going to see a drop-off in Brad Marchand's production? I mean, it feels like it's safe to say probably, yeah. He's off a double hip surgery, though it didn't seem to bother him at all last year, which, again, upsets me. But Brad Marchand, man, I mean, he's just a little pesky fuck, and I feel like he might just, shove it up our hoop, and he's just going to continue to be a point-of-game player. I wouldn't be surprised if he was. But then you got the other guys. You got Jake DeBrusk and Trent Frederick. Trent Frederick ready to take a bigger, a higher role on this team. I mean, he's been solid, but it's like time now. There's no more Krejci and Bergeron, backing these guys up if they're not up to snuff and producing the way that the Bruins need them to produce. They need them big time this year, and they're going to need it again out of Jake DeBrusk, who had a great year last year, but he's got to do it again. And Jake DeBrusk has been like a roller coaster with the Bruins. He loves them, he hates them, he loves them, he hates them. Is this the year that he finally says, fuck it, I want out of here, get me out of here? But we'll see. He's only got 1 year left as well. And then you got the new guys coming in. Milan Lucic, JVR, Patrick Brown, Bobquist. What are these guys going to do? Like, JVR could maybe fuck around and get like 50 points. Milan Lucic could fuck around and get 800 fucking hits and 1,000 penalty minutes. I cannot see Milan Lucic like emerging for like a 20-goal season or something like that. JVR, if used properly on the power play, yeah, I could see JVR hitting 20 goals. If he stays healthy, that'd be fine. But yeah, I mean, forward-wise, I'm not like very blown away with this forward group. But then their defense is very, very strong still. They got Charlie Coyle back there. Sorry, not Charlie Coyle. They have him up front. Charlie McAvoy is back there just rocking it. $9.5 million now. 25 years old, so he's like right there. He's in his prime now. He's probably still going to get a little bit better every single year. I imagine that defensive ability is going to continue to refine itself and just continue to get better. Hampus Lindholm, fucking Norris-level defenseman last year. He fell off once Charlie McAvoy came back into the lineup, but he was a phenomenal Bruin last year, was Lindholm. Carlo, Grzelcyk, Forbort, Zaboral. I don't think we're going to see much out of Zaboral. Shattenkirk and Ian Mitchell. I mean, that's a pretty solid defensive core back there. If they stay healthy, it should be pretty good back there. They should have a pretty solid penalty kill. Power play is going to be very interesting, right? Because of the lack of centers. And I think underratedly, we have to remember that Patrice Bergeron is arguably one of the greatest face-off men in history. So Bruins are definitely going to be taking a hit there in puck possession, not winning the puck off of the face-offs as often as Bergeron would get them that puck. So they're going to be playing behind, I imagine, a little bit more than they're used to. But they do have one of the better tandems back there in net with Linus Ullmark and Jeremy Swayman. Swayman gets his money. Ullmark has been incredible for the Bruins. Hard to say that he's going to replicate what he did last year. That seems like a once-in-a-lifetime type of season. But even if he drops off like 5% from that, that's still an incredibly good season. Are we going to see more out of Jeremy Swayman this year? I imagine there's some Bruins fans that would definitely like to see more playtime for Swayman, and I would too. I like Swayman. He's got some swagger. I dig that player, but in terms of where the Bruins are going to finish this season, I'm sticking with my guns, man. I don't think the Bruins are going to be in the top four. I have them finishing fifth. in the Atlantic this year. I just feel like that is a major blow. Probably a major blow in confidence after that playoffs last season against Florida. So I feel like the swagger of the Bruins, we're going to start seeing that deflate quite a bit this year. But it doesn't mean that they're not necessarily going to be in the playoffs. We could maybe see 5 teams come out of the Atlantic this year and only 3 out of the Metro. We'll see. I have the Bruins. They're definitely going to be in the mix. I can't count out the Bruins and say they're going to fall off a cliff and they're going to be like a lottery team this year, but it's really hard for me, even with the embarrassment of what happened to me last year with my predictions in the Bruins. But now without Bergeron and Krejci, they got no centers, goddammit. Like, this has to be the year that the Bruins start to fall off. So I'm going to have them fall off, but only a little bit, going down to 5th place. Next up, we have the Florida Panthers, the team that went all the way to the Stanley Cup final last year, only sadly to be taken out by the Vegas Golden Knights, which, you know, it was a really, really, really fun run for the Florida Panthers. So let's talk about their offseason. They lost Lucas Carlson, Radkel Gudas is gone, Patrick Hornquist retired, Alex Lyons gone to Detroit, Giovanni Smith, and Mark Stahl. Eric Stahl also... he is unsigned right now. I think he's still a free agent. Possibly could be retiring. And they have quite a bit of additions over this, free agency period. Mikkola signs a 3-year. Riley, Carlson, Denisenko signs a 2-year. Kulikov 1 year. Oliver Ekman-Larsson is brought in. Alex Stolarz brought in. Evan Rodriguez with a 4-year contract. Stenlund, Lockwood, Mayu, Asplund, Ludwig, Fitzgerald. So a lot of depth, a lot of smaller names, some higher names up there. You know, Ekman-Larsson, a big name, but not going to be providing what Ekman-Larsson was doing maybe 7 years ago or whatnot. But Florida off to the finals last year was definitely a little bit of a surprise because they very much so squeaked into the playoffs last year, but definitely it seemed like they were underperforming all last year. They just couldn't quite get that footing. They're almost kind of like the Calgary Flames of the East. They just couldn't get a win streak going. They were losing, but not like big losing streaks. They were very frustrating. They're just like, God, there's more here, but you guys just aren't. Like, what the fuck is going on? And then they found it in the playoffs. I mean, Maurice seemed to get his fingers deep into that team. His systems got in there, and it all started to click, and it clicked at the right time, but just not quite enough to get him a Stanley Cup, but a very impressive run indeed. So, forward-wise, you're looking at Alexander Barkov, Matty Tkachuk, Sam Reinhart, Sam Bennett, Gata Verhaeghe, Evan Rodriguez, Eetu Luostarinen, Nick Cousins, Steven Lorentz, Kevin Stenlund, Anton Lundell, Ryan Lomberg, and Grigory Denisenko. Take a look here. They do have some pretty hefty names there on the long-term injury reserve, but that is definitely that's for defensemen. We'll talk about defensemen in a moment. But forward-wise, you got Matty Tkachuk, probably good for 100 points this year. Barkov, definitely getting a little bit of hatred here, especially with his underperforming in the playoffs, but I think Barkov is a phenomenal player. Last year, his points production went down with the loss of Huberdeau. Matty Tkachuk isn't the player that Huberdeau is. Huberdeau is a phenomenal passer. He's going to get other players' goals. Matty Tkachuk is just an animal. He'll do everything. I wouldn't say he's necessarily he's not like a bad complementary player. It's just that Huberdeau was just so good at feathering the pass and whatnot. So I don't know if you're going to see Barkov hitting the ridiculous numbers that he was with Huberdeau, but Alexander Barkov, he's got that incredible defensive game. He's unbelievable. Sam Reinhart, we talked about that. Evan Rodriguez, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So Evan Rodriguez, he could be in their top 6 this year. I imagine in a perfect world, they're going to want him kind of roving into that middle 6 area. That's where, I don't know, man, because that flash in Pittsburgh that Evan Rodriguez had when Malkin went down, Rodriguez takes over, and he was phenomenal. He was incredible. If he can find that gear again, oh my goodness. And I hope, and I imagine Florida is hoping that he does, because he has them locked in for 4 years. So we could see Evan Rodriguez getting into that top 6, but then you have guys like Luosterainen and Lundell. So Lundell could be like that third line center this year, a very good one at that. We'll have to wait and see how it goes with him. Sam Bennett, Barkov, probably your 1-2 center. But, I mean, they could put Bennett on a wing. It doesn't seem that they have him listed to be on the wing, but I thought I've seen him play on the wing before. But regardless, that's a pretty nice-looking top 6 right there. I mean, there's definitely Carter Verhaeghe. I would say he's still underrated. I think he can hit 30 goals. Sam Bennett has been unbelievable ever since he's been a Florida Panther. God, I wish he could have found that in fucking Calgary. I knew it was there. We saw it in the playoffs every year, but it just, whatever. It's over now. But then, yeah, they do look a little bit light in terms of the bottom 6. I mean, Nick Cousins, he's pretty solid. There's just like a lot of okay guys. There's no one really down there that I'm like, he could definitely make a bit of a problem down there for other teams' bottom 6. I mean, Lomberg, he's shown flashes of looking pretty decent, but you're going to be looking for guys like Luosterainen and Lundell. If they're going to be in that bottom 6, you're going to want to look for them to be dominant down there. So it's going to be interesting in terms of their bottom 6. I wouldn't be surprised if they tried to add in some more guys. I mean, Eric Stahl down there maybe wouldn't be a horrible option. So it's definitely, I would say it's top heavy for Florida. They could definitely use some help in that bottom 6. Now defensemen. So defensemen, they're taking a big hit here on long-term injury reserve. Both Aaron Ekblad and Brandon Montour are both on there. I feel like they're both going to be ready to go for the regular season, so I'll keep that in mind. But that's their 2 best defensemen right there. They're both on long-term right now, so that's going to hurt. We'll see how long that goes into the regular season. Again, I don't think it's supposed to be all that long. And Brandon Montour, he had an unbelievable season last year. It's going to be really tough for him to replicate that. He's going to want to do that, though, because he's going into a contract year. So if he can fucking hit 70 points again, he's going to get paid some big bucks, and he's going to want that. So we're definitely going to be looking for Brandon Montour to repeat, have a big season. Aaron Ekblad, it's just stay healthy, for God's sakes, please. And then the rest of them, they have Forsling, Mikkola, Ekman Larson here now, Mike Riley, Dmitry Kulikov, Josh Mahura, Lucas Carlson, and Matt Kiersted. A lot of depth here, I'd say. That's a pretty decent looking depth. Not a lot of guys here that I'm like blown away with. I mean, Ekman Larson could have a resurgence, but I'm not expecting I'd be surprised if he got over 30 points personally. Mike Riley, pretty solid defensive defenseman. Both he and Dmitry Kulikov are signed for $1 million apiece, so you can do worse with that. And Forsling, an underrated defenseman in this league, I would say. So, I mean, it's pretty good, but yeah, they're gonna want Aaron Ekblad and Montour in there as soon as possible. And then goaltending. Goaltending's gonna be interesting this year. So you got Bobrovsky, still making $10 million, but he looked like he was earning that $10 million more so in the playoffs last year. Hopefully he can string together a nice regular season for the Florida Panthers. They brought in Stolarz, who I think honestly is a little bit underrated. I think he's a really good backup. And then they have Spencer Knight, who is coming off of the player assistance program. He says he's good to go, ready to come out of that. And we're definitely going to have eyes on Spencer Knight, hoping for a very good bounce-back season out of him. I would hate to see him just, have a really bad season and things go bad for him. I'm always rooting for goaltenders that have a lot of hype and potential and stuff like that. So Florida fans and all that and the management, they're definitely going to be hoping that Spencer Knight comes out of this season looking like a fucking Superman. So where do I have the Florida Panthers finishing this season? I feel like they super underperformed last year. So I feel like I'm probably overestimating the Florida Panthers a little bit, but I do have them second, which even I'm a little bit skeptical about, honestly. But I'm kind of playing it safe a little bit. I'm going to go with the tried and true. I'm scared about, the big 3, the Buffalo Sabres, the Sens, and the Detroit Red Wings. Are we going to see a New Jersey level pop-off with one of those, 3 of those, 2 of those teams? What the fuck? It's going to be tough, but until it happens, I got to kind of stick with my guns, I think. But That's the Florida Panthers. That might be a little high on second place, but I do feel like they super underperformed last year. They were a President's Trophy winning team 2 years ago, not that long ago. So I don't know. Maybe second is a little bit high for the Panthers, but I think they're a good team. Next up, we got the Ottawa Senators. I'm calling them the big three because one of those fucking teams is going to bust out this year. Ottawa, in their off-season, we have got Patrick Brown is gone. Dylan Gambrell is gone. Julien Gauthier is gone. Travis Hamonic gone. Scott Sabourin, Cam Talbot, and Eric Brand. No, he's good. Okay, so not too many exits by the looks of it. Obviously, DeBrincat is gone. That was a big major trade made in the offseason, bringing in Kubalik. So, other guys that they brought in, Brandstrom re-signs, Korpisalo with the big 5-year contract, goaltender brought in for the Senators. Chartier, Courier, Imama, Highmore, Pylon, all signed. Hamonic, I guess, okay, never mind, he's coming back, my bad. McEwen, Mandalisi, and Vladimir Tarasenko coming into the Ottawa Senators this season. So, Ottawa on the cusp, baby. They're on the cusp. They're right there. There's a lot of fun, interesting things going on around the Senators. They have the new owner. They got potentially a new arena at some point coming in. And it looks like the future is going to be bright for the Ottawa Senators. And they have a pretty tasty looking forward group, leading it off with Timmy Stützle, the man. Oh my God, he's only 21 years old. We could see a 100-point season out of Timmy Stützle this season. Kid is an absolute fucking stud. Starting off his 8-year contract now, only at $8.3 million. What an absolute freaking steal of a deal that is. You got the captain, Brady Tkachuk, who had a phenomenal year last year, looking to improve on that. Brady, I don't know if he's going to hit like 100 points that his brother is, but I can see Tkachuk easily hitting well over a point a game this season. He just continues to get better and better. 23 years old now, so he's in his stride. You got the legend Claude Giroux, had an excellent year last year. He is 35 years old now. Is he going to be able to replicate what he did last year? I mean, I'm a big old fan of Claude Giroux, so I would like to think yeah, but wouldn't be super shocked if he falls down in production a little bit, but I don't think it's going to be like a drastic fall off for Claude Giroux. He seems revitalized playing with the Ottawa Senators, so rooting for Claude Giroux to keep it up. And then Vladimir Tarasenko, the new guy coming in here. 31 years old, he's been up and down in the league, dealing with a lot of injury problems with his shoulder especially. I think it should be safe to say Tarasenko, as long as he remains healthy, should be able to bring 20 goals to the Ottawa Senators. It's only 1 year, so maybe he ends up getting traded, maybe he re-signs. We'll have to wait and see. Tarasenko, that'll be fun. That'll be really interesting. You got Drake Batherson, I believe, was he the one that got hurt last year? I don't know, but one of them went down last year. Rather is Drake Batherson or the other guy. Regardless, looking for Drake Batherson to have a major role in the top 6 for the Senators this year. 25 years old. They got a young, up-and-coming team here, man. It's very exciting. They also got Matthew Joseph. He's here, probably a third liner. Dominic Kubalik could also be slotting into that third line. There's a name fucking missing here. Who am I missing? Like, Josh Norris is not here. Where is Josh Norris at? Oh, there he is. Okay, he's on long-term injury reserve. That's what's going on. Okay, I understand completely. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Fuck, man, that is a nice looking forward group. If everyone gets nice and healthy and you have a Matthew Joseph, Dominic Kubalik, and then like a Shane Pinto third line. Ooh, baby, that is a nasty little third line right there for the Ottawa Senators. They do still need to sign Shane Pinto, but I think they're going to be able to get that done. But goddamn, that is a tasty looking forward group, I must admit. Moving down the lineup here, like I said, they do have Shane Pinto, still needing him to get signed. Same with Sokolov, he needs a contract. They also have Parker Kelly, Zach McEwen, Mark Kastelik down there as well. Don't really know anything about those guys, but I would imagine some serviceable players right there. Maybe you would want some bigger names down there in the bottom 6, but Jesus, if that third line is like what it's going to be, Kubalik, Matthew Joseph, and then Pinto, that could be a fucking problem for teams to deal with. And then like your other line of like Timmy Stu Brady, Claude Giroux, and then you do like a Vladimir Tarasenko, Drake Batherson, Norris line. Like that's pretty freaking awesome, man. That is not bad at all. Now, defense has a lot of question marks around it. So you have Thomas Chabot, the workhorse of the team, 30-minute kind of guy. He's an excellent defenseman. And then you have Jacob Chychrun, who, personally, I forgot that they brought in last season, but now he's here. He's going to have a nice full season, full training camp, all that stuff. So looking for big things out of Jacob Chychrun for sure. He's going to be playing a major role back there for the Ottawa Senators. They have Artem Zub, who's a pretty good partner right there for Thomas Chabot. Or it might be Travis Hamonic. And then Eric Brandstrom, still looking for that breakthrough here. He's 23 years old now, so that window is closing, but this could be the year. We'll see. And then Jake Sanderson, looking for a huge year out of the young defenseman, 21 years old now. I can't remember if he was hurt or something last year. That I might be mixing him up with the Anaheim Ducks defenseman, but Jake Sanderson definitely going to be a major part of the future of the Ottawa Senators, looking to crack into that top four this season. I doubt he's going to be top two, but looking for a major role in that top four, that would be huge. Same with Jacob Bernard Docker. If he can crack into that lineup as well and make an impact, the Senators, I don't know, man. They could fuck around and get into a playoff spot. It's very tough. It's very tough. I think they have a very, very nice looking team right here, especially forward wise. They can stay healthy and all that. I feel like their big question mark though is in net. So they bring in Joonas Korpisalo, which is great. It's nice to see that they brought in a goaltender. It's just like Korpisalo though, from what I saw him playing with the Kings in the playoffs last year, it looks like teams have a book on this guy, and I feel like he's going to get exposed. I think he's going to be a good goaltender. I don't know if he's the guy that's going to like drag you into a playoff spot or anything like that. We'll have to wait and see. Joonas Korpisalo, goalies, very, very hard to read, very hard to get any sort of prediction onto a goaltender until they get out there and start playing. But for the Ottawa Senators, they are rolling the dice on this guy. 5-year deal at $4 million. It could be brilliant. It could be a fucking disaster. So we're just going to have to wait and see there. And yeah, they do have injured reserve guys. Anton Forsberg, other goaltender. I think he's going to be okay to go. And then Josh Norris should be okay to go. They're going to need all these guys healthy, ready to go. The big question mark is last season's argument was, if Drake Batherson didn't go down, the Sens would have probably made it. But it's like, if your team fell apart with one guy going down, then you're probably not bound for playoffs. So many other teams, look at the Bruins, they lost half their fucking squad last year, and they had the most amazing season of all time. So you have to rally when big guys go down. You got to have guys step up and shit like that. So with the Ottawa Senators, where do I have them finishing this season? I have them at 6th, so I don't know, man. I'm not 100% sold on the goaltending and defense just yet. Offense, I'm quite fucking sold, man. They might have one of the more impressive offenses in the league right now. I mean, Timmy, Stützle, and Brady, they could take another step forward. It's going to fall down to Tarasenko and Giroux as long as they can continue to be serviceable NHL guys. They don't take like too drastic of a fall off. I really like the forward group of the Ottawa Senators. Again, these guys should absolutely be in the playoff race. They could easily get in there, I think. It's just going to be really, really tough. So some teams you're just going to have to say, well, there's only so many spots available. So Senators, sadly, I have them just outside of the playoffs this season as well. All right, we'll move on to one of the easier teams to predict. It's the Montreal Canadiens. No disrespect, but we know what position that the Habs are in right now. They're in a rebuild phase, and they're doing a really damn good job at it, I must say. So, with the Montreal Canadiens this off season, they are losing Alex Belzile. He is gone. Jonathan Drouin, he's out of there. Denis Gurianov, Anthony Richard, and Chris Tierney are all out of here. Yeah, but they did bring in some people. They brought in keeper Anderson, Harvey Pinard re-signs. I really like that one. Stevens, Newhook came in, and Bodine. So, not like the most flashy offseason, but they're making some moves around there. You know what I'm saying? And they're definitely a young team on the rise. leading it off with Nick Suzuki leading the charge for the offensive. The forward group here, $7.875 million contract for the next 7 years, an unbelievable deal. He's only 24 years old right now and really, really coming into his own. The current captain of the Montreal Canadiens. Really, really like this player. And I think he's going to have another really strong season. Again, stay healthy and everything, which he did last season, but I mean, the rest of the team around him is going to have to stay healthy. There's not a lot of major threats on this team, so if what's his face goes down again, trying to remember his name, I'm blanking, Cole Caulfield, if he goes down, then yeah, teams are going to be able to focus in more so on Nick Suzuki and whatnot. But Nick Suzuki, fantastic player, very good, strong two-way player as well. Maybe now with Bergeron out of the league, maybe we start seeing Suzuki's name into the Frank J. Selke. But I think it's going to be Nico Hischier's trophy to win nowadays. Brendan Gallagher still kicking it around here. Josh Anderson, Christian Dvorak, Joel Armia, Kirby Dach, Alex Newhook, Jake Evans, Raphael, Harvey Pinard, Michael Pezzetta, and Jesse Jolanen. There's some good names here. There's some really good names. There's definitely some upside. I like Kirby Dach's game since he came here to Montreal. Looking good. He's still only 22 years old, former third overall pick just a few years ago. Alex Newhook are going to have a lot of eyes on this young man, 22 years old, coming in, probably looking to make his mark in that top six for the Habs. Is he going to be the second line center? Good chance of that. I mean, Christian Dvorak could slide down to the third line. Kirby Dach, are they going to use this kid as a center, or are they going to use him as a winger? By the looks of it, I think they're more keen to have him on the wing, but he's still young. There's a lot of options here for the center or the Montreal Canadiens. Brendan Gallagher, he's kind of been falling off a little bit here in his career. Josh Anderson, one of the most infuriating players to watch. He is so painfully inconsistent. One game he is the next coming of Mario Lemieux, and then the next 20 games he's fucking invisible. So have fun with that guy. Joel Armia, really like that player. Nice, solid, middle six kind of guy. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of question marks, a lot of young players to see like what's next for them. Is Harvey Pinard, is he going to be a top six player, or just like a really solid bottom six guy? What are we looking at? I think we're kind of done with Jake Evans here. He's 27 years old, but there's other young players here. Jolanen, what is he going to bring? And then their defense has a lot of youngness to it. So we're leading it off here. You got Michael Matheson, David Savard, Jordan Harris, okay. Gustav Lindstrom, Justin Barron, and Caden Gooley. So Justin Barron, Caden Gooley, they're two 21-year-old defensemen, and the Habs are waiting for these two kids, one of these two kids, to bust out and be a big player for the Montreal Canadiens on their blue line. It's only a matter of time for one of these or both of these kids to break out. Is it this year? Is it next? Or who knows? It's just a matter of time, I imagine. Jonathan Kavasevich and Chris Weidman. So, yeah, not the strongest looking defense or even forward group. They do have quite a few names here on their injured reserve. Cole Caulfield, obviously going to be a major player. Could potentially, I don't know if he's going to hit 50 this season or even next, but a potential 50 goal scorer in this league at some point once the team maybe gets a little stronger. Sean Monahan, Juraj Slafkovsky, the first overall pick a couple of years ago, looking for a bigger role on the team this year. He got hurt last year, so didn't get a lot, and I mean, it wasn't the most eye-popping first season in the NHL, but there were some flashes there. It's like, okay, there's something here. He's got some emotion. He's got some fired up stuff, so hoping that he can take another step this year. I don't think he's going to, like, bust out for 50, 60 points or anything, but you should see some nice progression in his game this season. And then Arbor Jack guy, probably the most popular guy on the team right now. So, yeah, they got some major names on their injured reserve. And then, of course, you got Carey Price, who sadly probably won't be playing in the NHL anymore, which is very sad. But I think it's safe to say with this team, we're not really looking at a team that's going to threaten for a playoff spot or anything like that, but it's definitely a young and exciting team here. There's a lot of guys, younger players that I'm rooting for, especially guys like Kirby Dach. Really interested to see what an Alex Newhook is going to be able to do in his new role. And of course, I am excited to see what's going to go on with Arbor Xhekaj this season. Like the legend of him continues to grow, and he's only 22 years old. And then goaltenders, they have Jake Allen is still here, Casey DeSmith brought in throughout trade, and then Samuel Montembeault. So Montembeault's 26 years old now. I don't know if he's going to ever become like a bona fide starter in the NHL, maybe a fringe or a solid backup at best. Casey DeSmith will be interesting. He's 32 now. I thought he was substantially younger than that, honestly, but probably going to be the backup. And Jake Allen, he's been dealing with some health problems over the last couple seasons, but a very solid, he gets the job done back there. He's not fucking necessarily stealing you games. He's not really necessarily losing you games. He's Jake Allen. He's solid shit. With the Habs, I'm finishing 8th in the division because, it's a very, very strong division, and they just have not the strongest team, but it's an up-and-coming team. It's young, it's up-and-coming, and maybe in a couple years, we'll start talking about them and seeing them in the playoffs again, which would be very, very exciting. Up next, we got the powerhouse Tampa Bay frickin' Lightning. Is this going to be the year that we finally see that team fall out of the playoffs? I don't know. Let's just start breaking this team down. Let's see, what did they do this offseason? We have exits of Pierre-Edouard Bellemare, Ian Cole, Alex Killorn, that's one of the big ones. And they did get Tanner Jeannot re-signed, and they brought in Connor Sheary, Archibald, Glenn Denning, Johansson, Logan Brown, there he is, Chaffee, Dehane, and Jeannot got the 2-year extension. So, yeah, everything's been kind of weird with Tampa Bay ever since they did the Tanner Jeannot situation. That's where even the fan base was a little bit like, okay, what the hell is going on right now? And are we starting to see the Tampa Bay Lightning go through what the Detroit Red Wings did when they were coming to the end of their dominating days as Stanley Cup champions, where they started handing out big, meaty contracts to people that, they deserved it, but that's not the kind of money that you hand out to guys on championship teams. And, Tanner Jeannot, it's a fair deal. He only got $2.6 million, but it's the amount of assets that the Tampa Bay Lightning gave up to get Tanner Jeannot. So we'll see how it goes. Now, I will say flat out right now, I wouldn't be surprised if Tampa Bay falls out of the playoffs, but I don't have them there quite yet. So let's break it down. So forward-wise, you got, of course, Nikita Kucherov, legendary player. At least in my eyes, he's one of my favorites to watch. He just missed out on my top 10 players that are currently playing, because every time I watch Nikita Kucherov, he just makes a mind-blowing play that I'm like, I have no idea how you did that. But Nikita Kucherov's still here. Braden Point, Steven Stamkos. The three-headed dragon is still not going anywhere. They're still here. They're still here for a while. Or we'll see about Steven Stamkos. This is his last year of his contract, 33 years old right now. $8.5 million. Is he going to get more? Is he going to take less? That'll be very interesting. Steven Stamkos has been putting up some of his best seasons, if not his best statistical seasons over the last couple of years. So is he going to be able to do it again, or is he going to fall off? I don't know. The way that he's been projecting, he looks like he's going to have like 110 points this year. And then they still have Anthony Cirelli, Nick Paul is here, Tanner Jeannot, of course, Connor Sheary, Brandon Hagel, Josh Archibald, Michael Eyssimont, Luke Glendening, Logan Brown, and Barré-Boulet, Alex, Sofranche. Yeah, so that's a pretty damn good-looking forward group. It's not as hectic and filled out as it was a few years ago with Killorn and Gaudreau and all those other guys, that crazy good third line that they have. But he still has very, very, very good players here that have a lot of winning experience on this team. Kucherov, Braden Point, Steven Stamkos, studs. Anthony Cirelli, stud. Paul and Jeannot, they're new, and they haven't won the Stanley Cups yet, but Paul, he was fantastic for them ever since he showed up. Tanner Jeannot, now that he's maybe had a full season and he's going to get a training camp, maybe less pressure on him. I don't know. I think the pressure is going to be high on him for the rest of his tenure in Tampa Bay because of all the assets that they gave up to bring him in. But that's not Tanner Jeannot's fault, so hopefully the pressure doesn't get to him because I'm a fan of his. He's a great little player. Brandon Hagel, an absolute stud, a player I wish was a Toronto Maple Leaf, but isn't. And Connor Sheary, a pretty solid middle six kind of guy. So their top six still is quite good. I mean, you got that top line. It's absolutely deadly. Anthony Cirelli, he's a good player, but he's not like... He's more amazing at defensive, but he is still quite good at the offense. Brandon Hagel could take another step this year. He scored 30 goals last year. Yeah, man, I'm not counting out that Tampa Bay offense right there. As long as everyone's healthy, Nikita Kucherov and Stamkos can stay healthy, it's still a pretty potent offense. And then the defense. So the defense has been taking some blows over the last couple of years, but still got Mikhail Sergachev and Victor Hedman here. So Sergachev, is it his defense now? I still think it's Hedman's to run. Hedman's the fucking man. Though he had a down year last year, I think he'll bounce back strong this year. He's got a lot of hard miles on him, man. Like all those playoff runs, that adds up. And maybe, going down in the first round last year was a little bit of a break that they needed. So maybe Tampa comes out swinging this year. They go freaking nuts. Mikhail Sergachev, he's 25 now, so yeah, he's all the way in there, starting his $8.5 million deal as my cat yells at me. Hello, baby. You want to get onto the show? Say hello to the peoples? All right, let me talk about the Tampa Bay defensive core. Eric Cernak, really strong defensive defenseman. He's getting paid now. I don't know, I wouldn't say overpaid. I think he's well worth that money. And Nick Perbix is going to be a defenseman that they're looking for another jump forward. He played quite well for them last year. Just another one of those players in their organization. You never heard of them before, and then they get into the lineup and they fit right in. They're just dandy, and that would be Nick Perbix, just another one of many Tampa Bay Lightning players to do just that. Zach Bogosian's still there. He's a very, very solid top six defenseman for them. I really enjoyed him as a Leaf. I wish he stuck around. Calvin DeHaan, another a guy I always wish the Leafs signed, but there he is. He's in Tampa Bay. Hayden Fleury and Darren Radish. So Darren Radish I always thought was a forward, but I guess he's a defenseman now. So he and Hayden Fleury, they're both 27 depth defensemen. Probably not going to see a whole lot of those guys. It's going to be a lot of Eric Cernak, Hedman, and Sergachev for sure. They're going to be doing a lot of the heavy lifting defensively for them, but they got a pretty hefty name back there defending them. Andre Vasilevsky, still the fucking man. 29 years old, feels like he's been in the league for 800 years, but he's the man. I mean, you really can't count out a team with a goalie like Andre Vasilevsky back there on this team. So I have a hard time counting out this team with the likes of Vasilevsky, Hedman, Kucherov, Stamkos. That core is still here, and they just continue to defy the aging process, the tiredness of going through all those crazy playoff runs. They just keep going. So until all their legs fall off, I'm going to have to just keep rooting for this team to continue to be playoff bound, because they really just hard to root against them, man. They're a very powerhouse team. They do have some people on long-term injury reserve, just Brent Seabrook, who will not be playing anymore. Yeah, man, it's a good team. They should be still very solid. I have them finishing third. They could go to fourth. I could still see them. They're still going to be in the mix. I don't think they're of the nature now that they're looking for President's Trophy wins. They're looking to be first place in the division. That's not really what I think their goal is. I think their goal is get to the playoffs as healthy as we can, and then once we're there, it's almost like muscle memory for them now. They've been there so many damn times, and off they go to be crazy. So, yeah, I still believe in the Tampa Bay Lightning, but again, I would not be shocked if they fell off this year and missed the playoffs. It wouldn't shock me. It really wouldn't. With all those hard playoff runs, I would not be shocked. I just couldn't be. Next up, we got the Detroit Red Wings, another of that three-headed beast of teams looking to break out in the Eastern Division. So Detroit's been a little busy. We got some exits here of Robert Hagg, Magnus Hellberg, Klim Kostin, Gustav Lindstrom, Matt Luff, who actually, he re-signed. We're all good there. Jordan Osterley, he gone. P.S. Suter, and Jasper Weatherby. But they were quite busy in the offseason bringing in, this is going to win them the Stanley Cup right here. Justin Hall is now a Detroit Red Wing. I'm just kidding. Klim Kostin, Lindstrom, Luff, James Reimer, Lafferty, Daniel Sprong is here, Gettinger. Compher signed the 5-year deal. That was the big one. Gostisbehere is here. Fisher, Alex Lyon, goaltender from Florida. Stevens, New Power, and McIsaac. So a lot of names getting added into the Detroit Red Wings organization. They were strong last year. They were in it until they decided we're not in it no more. They pulled the chute and they just fell off a cliff, selling off at the deadline. And I commend them for that. That was the right move to make. They knew they weren't going to make it, so they might as well sell off the assets and get what they can, and then rebuild and build up for the next year. Try again. I like that. Stevie Y's doing the right thing with that. Nope, I went off to the wrong team here. There we go. So let's go take a look at their cap friendly. Let's see how those forward group is looking over there in Detroit as I stretch for time, as I struggle to find the Detroit Red Wings cap friendly page. There it is, everybody. There it is. So we are leading the charge with Dylan Larkin, the captain of your Detroit Red Wings. Alex DeBrincat brought in on the big trade from Ottawa. Andrew Kopp, JT Compher, big signing. David Perron, Robbie Fabry, Klim Kostin, Daniel Sprong, Christian Fisher, Jonathan Berggren, Lucas Raymond, and Joseph Veleno, who is still looking for his contract. So I don't know what's going on with Veleno. A guy that had a lot of hype coming in. He just hasn't really found his way in the NHL just yet. Forward groups, it's a nice looking forward group. Now, there's not a lot of names here that fly out to me that are going to be amazing. I mean, Dylan Larkin, a very good player. Alex DeBrincat, I feel like maybe a little bit overrated. Could probably hit 30 goals this year, but I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't. I wouldn't be surprised if he hit 25 and had a similar season to what he did with Ottawa, and that be that. But Alex DeBrincat, I mean, it's great that he's here. He wants to be here, so it's always nice to see a player, get to play where he wants to play. He always wanted to play, so that's cool. Really like Andrew Kopp. He's a master of none, but a jack of all trades. He can do a little bit of everything. He's listed as a center, left, right. So, yeah, he's going to be doing a lot of stuff. David Perron, love that little player right there. He is 35 now, so I don't know how much more he's going to be providing for the Red Wings, but he's got that veteran leadership. Robbie Fabry, he's a good little player. I think he's a little bit overpaid. Klim Kostin, I like that addition for them. A little bit of grit, a little bit of a power forward right there. And Daniel Sprong, another. Now, the question with Daniel Sprong is going to be, are they going to be able to get what the Seattle Kraken got out of Daniel Sprong? Kid was playing 11 minutes. He would score almost every single night that he was out there, and they just knew how to use that guy. So if they can figure out how to do that as well, Daniel Sprong could be a nice 15 to 20 goal scorer on this team. That'd be great. And of course, you got Lucas Raymond here. He had a little bit of a down year last year, bit of a sophomore slump. It happens, but I always watch for the rookie players in their third season. Third season tends to be their big year where it all kind of comes together. It takes them a little while. Not every guy can just come in and get it going, though Lucas Raymond kind of did. He had a good rookie season. But yeah, same thing with Seider last year. A little bit of a sophomore slump, but they got it going later in the year. So looking for Lucas Raymond to bust out, but it's a solid offensive lineup, but it doesn't scream it's not the strongest one that I've been listing off today. And then their defense. So you got the legendary Ben Sherratt that everybody loves, Shane Gostisbehere, Justin Hall, Jake Wallman, Oli Mata, Jeff Petrie, Moritz Seider, and Jared McIsaac. So obviously this defensive core being led by the young 22-year-old, Moritz Seider. So, like I said, he had a little bit of a down year last year. A lot is getting put on this young man's plate. He's leading the charge for offense, defense. He's very important to their team. And it seemed that other teams in the NHL started realizing that, and they started kind of queuing in on Moritz Seider and making it harder for him. He was paired with Ben Sherratt. That was not going well. They put him with Jake Wallman, and things started to go a little bit better. So maybe they can get him off to a better start this season, having him paired with Wallman. We'll have to wait and see. But again, this isn't the most incredible defensive core. There's a lot of pretty good guys. Shane Gostisbehere, pure offensive option. Justin Hall, frustrating option. Jake Wallman, he's big and he looks like he could be a good guy to have with Moritz Seider. But you're going to have the other younger, there's another younger defenseman that they have. I can't remember his name, but they're going to be looking for him to get into the lineup. Hopefully this year. I think his name is Edvidson, something like that. But yeah, a lot of hype and expectations around that defenseman, just waiting for him to crack into the NHL lineup. So, I mean, I like Detroit. I just don't like it just yet. I don't think they quite have it. Goaltending, Ville Husso, nice strong goaltender, looks like a very good, strong starting goaltender option. And then James Reimer, fantastic backup, fringe starter, goaltending option right there. So you got to like that. They have Michael Rasmussen on injured reserve, so that's another younger forward that they're going to be adding into that lineup. I mean, it's an up-and-coming team. I just don't quite see it there all the way just yet. But there's definitely some things to like here. There's some more younger players coming into this lineup. I just think they're still a couple pieces short. And, yeah, they're getting there, though. They're getting there. I have them listed as 7th place in the division this season. So don't have them quite making it to the playoffs just yet. But, again, I think they're going to take another step. They're going to be in that mix. But I'm not convinced just yet. Sorry, Detroit Red Wings fans. And last but certainly not least is the Buffalo Sabres, who I'm feeling pretty good about the Buffalo Sabres this year, folks. They looked pretty damn good last year. They have the longest current playoff drought in the NHL. I think we're 11 or 12 years now. It's been a very, very long time since we've seen the Sabres. I do recall them being like, you know, that 2016 when they changed the jerseys and everything, and like how good that team was. And then, yeah, it's been a very freaking long time. They basically have gone through 2 rebuilds at this point. So in their offseason, they haven't been too busy. I mean, they technically lost Ben Bishop to retirement. Okay. Vinny Hinostroza is gone. Tyson Jost re-signed. Okay, that's good. And Malcolm Subban has gone off to St. Louis. They brought in Jost, re-signed him. Eric Johnson comes over. Connor Clifton comes over. Tokarski is here. Richards, Cooley, they signed their entry-level. Clegg, a different Matt Murray, and Wiseback. So they didn't go crazy in the offseason. They still have a shitload of money to play with. So there could be more moves in the works for the Buffalo Sabres. As of right now, it says they have $6 million in cap space. So let's take a look at this team. Let's see what's going on with these motherfuckers. So you have the immensely overpaid Jeff Skinner, though he's been playing more up to that contract over the last couple of years. He's got to get at least like 30, 35 goals minimum to be effective. But he played pretty good. He's 31, so, you know, he's still got some years to provide some good NHL years. Tage Thompson, oh my goodness, one of the most entertaining players to watch in the league. Could fuck around and get 50 this year. I think he's going to be in that Maurice Rocket Richard conversation this season. He's very, very good. Dylan Cousins took a big step. He's looking to take an even bigger step. Now he's got his big contract signed as well. Victor Olofsson, nice solid player. Should be good for 20 plus goals as long as he's healthy. Alex Tuch, probably my favorite player on the team. I love this guy. As he stays healthy, he should be. I mean, people are saying that he's overachieved. I just think he's found his home, and Buffalo is his home. The dude is legit. I would love for Alex Tuch to be the captain of this team. No offense to Kyle Okposo, but Alex Tuch, man, like shit changed when this guy got here. I don't think it's Eichel leaving. I think it's Alex Tuch coming in, baby. Alex Tuch, love that player. Jordan Greenway looking to have a bounce-back season. Casey Middlestad still looking to find his way. Former first-round pick. Zemus Gergensen still here. Legendary Buffalo Sabre. Captain Kyle Okposo, Tyson Jost, Peyton Krebs, Paterka's here, and some guy, Roos. Okay, good for those names. There's a lot of fun names there. Fun little team right here. So I think we're all on the Tage Thompson train. Looks like this guy's legit. Back-to-back, very impressive seasons now. So I think he's arrived officially. Dylan Cousins looked really good last year. So I got some hopes for this team, and I think they could add some forward or defensive depth. I think they can do both. Jordan Greenway, really like this player. A nice bottom six kind of guy. A little bit like a power forward. He's big, he can hit. If he could just get that goal scoring to come back a little bit more consistently, that would be huge for them. And Casey Middlestad, I think a lot of us are rooting for this guy to find his way. so many NHL video games where this kid got really good for me, and I just want him to get to that level. That'd be awesome. Yeah, man, there's some good guys here on the forward lineup, and then defensive. I mean, we saw them last year. They were scoring goals like at will last year, was the Buffalo Sabres. So they're going to be looking to repeat that. And then Rasmus Dahlin, he found it last year, baby. I'm telling you, it's that 3-4 year time frame they freaking find it, and Dahlin has entered into the Norris conversation, I would say, a top 10 defenseman in the league. He is fantastic. Pair him up with Samuelsson, a very underrated defenseman. Pairs very well with Rasmus Dahlin, and he earned a 7-year contract, so Buffalo Sabres, they know what they got in Samuelsson. Bringing in Connor Clifton, I know Bruins fans aren't like crazy about Clifton, but he'll be a great addition for the Buffalo Sabres. Defensive core, Eric Johnson, very similar. Just a nice veteran defenseman to add onto that young blue line. Very good. Ilya Lyubushkin, top 6, 7th defensive defenseman. Henry Jokiharju, probably depth. Jacob Bryson, probably depth. Riley Stillman, probably depth. And then Owen Power, baby. 20-year-old, had a really strong rookie season last year, looking to build on that, and I believe he will. I'm not saying he's going to powerhouse and get like 60 points or something this year, but the way that he's played defensively already at his young age is extremely impressive. So Owen Power looking to build on a very impressive season. And then the biggest question mark for the Buffalo Sabres is in net. So they brought in Eric Comrie last year. I was really hoping for Eric Comrie to have a big year for Buffalo last year. Didn't quite work out that way, which, he's got another chance this year, right? So he's still there, but there's a lot of question marks around Buffalo's goaltending because they have Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, so that guy's there. He seems like he's going to be good. He's 24 years old now, so this could be the year that he emerges as a legitimate NHL goaltender. He looked pretty good last year in short. He didn't get into very many games. And then, of course, you got the Devon Levi situation. This guy, the hype is real around him, and it looks really good, but until I get to see him in an NHL game and see what this guy's all about. He did get into some games, I do believe, last year, and he looked really good, but again, very limited, small sample size. So that's definitely the biggest question mark around this team right now. Is it looks good, but until it happens, it's hard to say. Also, they have Jack Quinn, who is on injured reserve. I think he's going to be coming back into the lineup. I think it was a bad injury that he had. And also, something really funny, they're still paying Christian Ehrhoff. Do you remember that guy? Oh my god, he's on their buyout history, and he is listed on that buyout history. It doesn't say he's getting any money, but he's there until 2027, 2028. Holy shit, what good job, Christian Ehrhoff. You're getting paid, boy. All right, so in terms of Buffalo Sabres positioning, you could probably kind of figure it out since it's the last team we're talking about, but I think Buffalo is playoff bound. They missed it by just a point last year. They just barely missed, and I got them fourth. That's the team out of the three-headed monster of Ottawa, Buffalo, and Detroit. I think Buffalo I like the look of Ottawa's team. There's just a little bit of that funk still around the organization with all the new changes. Honestly, I thought it would be a much more, even though I know the owner died and everything, that sucks, but I thought people would be happy that they finally got it all over with, and we'll see how it goes for Ottawa. I just still hoping that there isn't a gray cloud hanging over that organization. I feel like it should be gone. DeBrincat's gone. It's not that he was a problem, but it's something that players are going to be thinking about. It's does this guy want to play with us or not? Now you got guys that want to play with you, so that's good. But Buffalo was really impressive last year, and they got a nice young team, players getting better and better. Tage Thompson is, I would say, a legitimate superstar at this point. But I will say this. I am thinking that I hope this is the year that shit the boot drops. I wouldn't be surprised if Tampa falls out of the playoffs. I wouldn't be surprised if Boston falls out of the playoffs, and then you have Ottawa get in there. You have Detroit's the one that I'm not really convinced on yet. I'm looking through that team, and I'm not sold on it just yet, but they could surprise me. I don't think that's a complete team just yet, but I think they're definitely going to be competitive. It's not a bad team. But Ottawa's got, it looks like a potent offense up front. Defense is going to be questionable along with goaltending. And then Buffalo, they got a pretty well-rounded team. Their defense is pretty solid. It's young, but Dahlin has shown that he's arrived, and then their offense was pretty fucking potent last year. It's just the goaltending that has some question marks around that with the Sabres, but I mean, the future looks bright with the Sabres goaltending with Devin Levi, Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, lots of great names there for the Sabres. So that's just kind of some light predictions right there for the Atlantic. Things could shift. I mean, the Leafs could make a big trade here. Like I said, if William Nylander goes out the door and they bring out, and it's a bad trade, then, you know, things can get adjusted. We're still a long ways away. Well, not a long ways away, but a ways away from the beginning of the regular season, so shit can go down and I can adjust my rankings. But honestly, I'm hoping that this is the year that the shoe fucking falls and Boston, Tampa out, and we get some new teams into the playoffs, because that's always really, really exciting. Hi, baby. I know I'm almost done, baby. I'm almost done. Oh, and I just looked on NHL to see if there's any last pieces of news, and there is. Man, this is ridiculous. There's way too many deaths on this episode. I do not like this. Here we go. Rick Jeanneret, the voice of the Buffalo Sabres for fucking last 50 years, dude. He's passed away at 81. I mean, oh my goodness, dude. Really, really rough week for us here in the NHL landscape. But Jesus, dude, that is one of the most legendary voices, man. I mean, Mayday, Mayday. Now, personally, he was never my necessarily my flavor at the time, but I don't know. Maybe if I was a bigger Buffalo Sabres fan, I would have. Oh my goodness, baby, you're really interrupting. This is not appropriate. Someone has passed away, Mrs. You got to be nice. Okay, but. Man, that is really upsetting, and I feel like he just retired from the booth, and oh man, that's really upsetting. You know, he just got into full retirement, but the voice of the Buffalo Sabres for their whole entire existence, virtually. I mean, I think he has been there since the beginning. He's been there for over 50 years. They came in the 70s, so yeah, that kind of adds up. He's been there for a long freaking time, so that's really sad news, y'all. That's really sad news, but. Shit, man, that is just a rough week in the NHL. I mean, goddamn. All right, so let's try and end this on a positive note. So thank you, everybody, so much for listening. You guys are awesome. Make sure you're reviewing the podcast and all that great stuff. Really helps me out and all that stuff. You want to send in some comments? You want to ask some questions, maybe make fun of my predictions, ask me questions about what player I think is going to score 50 or something? Send in your questions. I would love that. I'd answer them live on the podcast if you'd like me to. And you can send them in on the Twitter. I got these get uploaded on the YouTube, so you can send in your comment on the YouTube episode. That's good. There's an email address and everything, so don't be shy. Send in your questions. There's no bad questions, I guess. I don't know. There's definitely some silly questions, but I don't mind those. Those are all good. And yeah, so past gamer GX GamerCast, I did, what the hell did I talk about? Breath of the Wild? No, Tears of the Kingdom. There it is. Oh, it's early. I just woke up. Sorry. Yeah, so the full review for that is out. You can go back and check that out. That'd be awesome. Please and thank you. That was a massive game, man. That was a big game, and it's 2 episodes, so there is 2 parts to that one. So if you check out both episodes, that'd be even better. I'm planning on doing a kind of a top 10 situation, just 10 gaming shames, just some moments in my gaming career history or whatever that I'm just not necessarily proud of. So we're going to talk about a little bit of that, have a little fun on Tuesday there, so that should be cool. My wife and I are off to Toronto today. We're going to go see SmackDown live, so the WrestleCast, it might be late, I don't know. I'm just going to throw that out there. It might be a little off because we're going to be doing traveling and stuff, so I might be a little behind on my wrestling, but it's going to be coming, so don't worry about that. Extremely excited to go to SmackDown tonight. It's going to be awesome. It might be the last time I get to see Edge, and yeah, that'll be really sad. I might cry tonight. I don't know how it's going to, I don't know what's going to happen today. And yeah, so next week we'll be continuing on with the NHL division predictions and whatnot. We'll go off with the, well, if you want, I can go and do a Western team, or I can just continue on with the East, finish off the East, and then we'll go on to the West. But so that'll be in there. Probably start, I don't know when I'm going to start doing, I'll do award predictions and all that crap probably a little bit later into closer to the beginning of the season. So there you go. That's kind of what we got going on in the near future here. If you have any ideas for something you would like me to do episode-wise in terms of video games, wrestling, or hockey, that's the other thing. There it is. Send in your questions and all that great stuff. It'd be really awesome. And, of course, thank you all so much for listening. You guys are awesome. We'll be back again with some more GX Plus Cast.